This is Bam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Neena Perez, your transformational life and business coach. And I want to thank you for being on the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Want to let people know we do have a URL for you below, go.neenaperez.com with a /opt-in/page. That'll be fully clickable, so you don't have to remember that. That'll be clickable in the podcast description of the channels we're on right now. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're going to be on a bunch of other channels by tomorrow. So then again, thank you for being on the show. A couple of things we asked any guest before we get into your story. What motivates you and why do you do what you do?
I think what motivates me is that I have a story that was pretty tumultuous when I was growing up. And I've realized how much stuff I've overcome and how strong I am. And I really wanted to inspire other people to understand that, tomorrow is another day and that you got this. And that really just inspires me. I really love helping other people. I realize my story isn't my story anymore, but it's for other people. So that's what inspires me to keep going.
It's good to pay it forward,
Yeah.
being a podcaster. I'm in that belief system and like the whole tribe of people that are in this. We like to tell people stories in long form so people can share their knowledge, like the oral history tradition that human
Hmm.
beings have always had. I feel like that if you talk to as many people as possible, you can get a master class in life.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. That's
And
why I
I
love
think
podcasts. Yeah,
you think
for
about it,
sure.
like I've been doing it for like since 2016, over 1,000 episodes. I feel like every episode has been like a teaching moment
Mhm.
for that person teaching me, that my
Right.
guest is teaching me and the audience. And I think I just feel that that's valuable in itself. So, um, so what made you want to be um, in this area of
Hmm.
being a life coach or a business coach? Is this something that you aspired to, or you kind of grew into?
I kind of grew into I always aspired to be a chef. And so I actually in my adulthood after I had my children and everything went back to college and became a chef. I became an executive chef and then I ran a restaurant for many years and all that. So that was a dream that I had since I was a little girl and I was able to accomplish that. Throughout the years of doing that though, I realized all of the people that I was helping along the way and helping them transform their leadership, their lives, things like that. And I got into spiritual leadership because I'm a Christian and started leading women spiritually for many years. And then that just kind of like grew. And then I got into business and coaching and neurolinguistic programming and all that kind of stuff. And I think as you start to get older and you start to dip into other areas and stuff, you start to realize that you're gifted in different areas. And that's what happened. And so then people started coming to me for coaching advice and how do I start a business and where do I start and what do I do? And that now has formed the business that I do today. So yeah, I kind of just grew into it, but I was really lucky because I was able to accomplish the dream I wanted, which is to become a really good chef, which I did. So I was excited.
So when you found that you could kind of take your life lessons and actually have a teaching moments, and
Hmm.
then transform that into like lesson plans for other people. How did that come? Did you start to like initially say, oh, I can actually pay this forward and
Hmm.
actually put the program together? How long did it take to kind of come up with the way you teach or the way you coach?
That's really good. I think it took me about 2 to 3 years because I didn't know what I was doing at first, right? So, I went for all of my certifications first. I have several certifications in different types of modalities when it comes to coaching. And then I built out a whole academy on it. And so, what I realized is in order for us to actually build what we want, we're going to have to really dig into the stuff that is holding us back. So, because I had that spiritual leadership certification and teaching behind me, I started to help women with like toxic shame and forgiveness and shame and belief systems and things like that. And then I started realizing that I can get them through those things and transcending into what their values are and their identity gaps and, they're setting goals and all that. And then all of that then became all the way around to people coming to this place where they want to co-create. They want to actually create a business that aligns with their values. And I think that they start to discover their values when we start to dig into all the stuff. And
Hmm.
so that's why it became like a whole system for me. And that's everything I teach is from inner all the way out to co-creation.
Now, it mentions you're an author. Now, so is your book about your coaching, or is it about other things?
No, my book, right? The book that I've published already is called Hit Me With Your Best Shot. That is actually my autobiography. And that's actually what set off the getting deeper into my transformation and my personal development because I had a life that hit me pretty hard. And so when people were reading that story, they were now then coming to me and confessing to me all the things that they went through in their lives, all the abuse and all that kind of stuff.
So it's like a
And I'm sorry?
so the book became like a way
Yes, like a
to kind of
right.
channel people maybe into the other phase.
Yes, exactly. It's I mean, when people understand that you can recognize them or you were there, they're more open to discuss what they've been going through with you. So it just really helped. It helped catapult
Mhm.
my business.
Well, it
Yeah.
showed you had the empathy for
Yeah.
yourself. Then
Yeah.
it's like once you can understand yourself, then other people see the parallels in your story. It's kind of like the idea when you're a writer and you
Mhm.
put your work in the world, people find the things that resonate. They find
Right.
the things that hit the key. It's like, oh, that really that I actually have that same understanding, and that's kind of like these universal truths that people can find.
Right.
Um, and when you're a creative person, you can kind of hit those notes, and then
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
like law of attraction, they get pulled into your story, or they get pulled into a vibe that you're generating.
Yep.
And I think it just becomes something like, oh, I can channel this. I can
Right.
use this as a positive thing to actually, keep my story going and actually have like a growth mindset rather than a scarce mindset.
It's true, and I think that, when you're a creative person, right? Because I got into culinary arts, right? As a chef, you start to think about like the processes and how to create something and how to make something out of nothing or make something out of raw materials, all that kind of stuff. And you start to realize that you can't keep your story to yourself, right? You have to share this with others. So everything you've gone through in life, you can't, I mean, don't be a secret agent.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be a big secret. People can know what you've gone through, and you'd be surprised to your point, right? When people start to resonate with your story, you start to develop your tribe, you start to find your people,
Yeah.
and so podcasting is a great way to do it, but writing your book is a great way to do it. Being on YouTube is a great way to do it. You think outside the box.
Well, it's a law of attraction. A lot of times,
Mhm.
artists, ourselves, we can get hit, with like a perfection trap. And I'm
Yeah.
always talking as a producer to other artists is like, you could sit there and have diminishing returns and keep on working on the same song for like 1,000 hours,
Yeah.
or you could like kind of let it go, trust yourself, and throw it against the wall and put it on SoundCloud, put it on
Right.
Mixcloud, throw it out, see if you actually get an audience.
Right.
Instead of trying to make it perfect where you're probably wrecking it. What I've
Right.
found with other artists is like the more you rewrite, the further you get away from the original truth of what you did. So like
Yeah.
the third or fourth take versus take 104 is probably closer to what you were really trying to do. And then you
Yeah.
got scared of it. And then you started
Exactly.
to try to take things out because the vulnerability is
Mm.
scary. Right. But the key thing in art, what I found is the more you're willing to be vulnerable
Mhm.
to your audience and tell those truths that are maybe hard to do, the more things will resonate because it's actually, hitting that note.
Yeah, yeah, you know what? And you have to be willing to suck.
Yeah.
You really have to be willing to understand that you're gonna suck. The truth of the matter
Well,
is
you get
when we're
better.
w yeah, exactly, and when we're first starting, I mean, who's good at anything when you first start? When you first started walking, you sucked. When you start riding your bike, you sucked. And you know what it is? I think that we have got to get away from, we have to unlearn being embarrassed. We have to
Mhm.
unlearn being embarrassed, because, I was listening to a speaker recently, and they were talking about how we're taught to be not, to be embarrassed or to be careful about being embarrassed. Like, don't act like that. We don't act like that in this family, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it stifles our creativity, I think, and
Oh,
especially
yeah, I
as
mean, you'll never
kids.
learn to
Yeah,
ride a bike if you're scared of falling down, right? You're scared of
exactly.
like, so at a certain age, a kid will ride the bike and don't care
Right.
because the wanting to ride around the neighborhood is more important than, how people see you fall down on a bike 10 times in a row.
Exactly.
But you could
Exactly.
get to a point in life where some well, if you fall down and you're trying to learn how to ride a bike at 28 or 29, it's like, "Oh, too many people are seeing me fall. I'm gonna stop.
Mhm.
I'm not even gonna do it."
Mhm.
Like, I'm not even
Yeah,
gonna learn how to do diving or doing it because you're so triggered by the impact of what it looks like. Where when
exactly.
you're a kid, the childlike behavior is like, well, I'm not as triggered at
Yeah.
certain points, but at a certain point you do get it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that is important.
You embrace the suck, man. Just embrace the suck as you're gonna suck, and it's okay. I think that, it's one of the things that we have to kind of just reprogram ourselves and realize that sometimes things just are, right? So if
Yeah.
you're creating a song, a piece of art, a book, whatever, it's just that thing. It's art, it's music, it's whatever it is. And everybody's going to have a different perspective. It just is.
Yeah.
So, to your point, there's things that we do that are triggering, but that comes from things that we've learned behavior. Because at the end of the day, you can put out a song and you'd be like, oh man, this song really sucks. And somebody else can look at that like, wow, that really inspired me because you put it out anyway.
Mhm.
So
But,
every
yeah,
every view is different. Yeah.
it's kinda like, the flow state
Yeah.
versus, like, this kinda, like, you're trying to just be, clone state. 'Cause like,
Yeah.
if you're in the kinda flow state, you're more in a jazz mindset where, like, it's not about the perfection, it's about the kinda imperfection, and a lot of artists will point out this, is like, if I'm a painter and I start throwing the brush strokes down and layer things, it is kinda that moment in time that I chose to do that layer, right? And it's
Mhm.
kinda point in time. That painting, it's a point in time type of thing, and it's beautiful for that because of that moment. Problem is we wanna control moments that sometimes we should not try to control. That
Yeah.
as artists, what we learn over time is like that kind of happy accident, that unplanned chord change or timing change, or something that's a little dissonant, maybe not the best mic, but the
Right.
vocal performance is like unbelievable. And no matter how many times you redo it, you never hit the first way you did it. And there are actually examples in music history where the first take technically didn't have a good mic, was noise in the background, but the artist could never really hit that performance the same way.
Mm.
And so they kept it because it had such an emotional impact. It was actually worth
Right.
the recording engineer and producer say,
So
hey,
good.
this is actually worth keeping because it's one of those moments and times like a paint stroke,
Yeah.
brush stroke.
Yeah.
It's like, and some people can't get their mind around that to
Yeah.
understand that that's okay.
I think it's because people don't pause either to actually ask themselves the deep questions, right? Like when I have a woman that comes to my program or whatever, I'm like, why do you want to do this? They tell me the surface stuff, and I go, they go, and it's not until like later on that we go, that's the real truth. This is the truth.
Mhm.
Not that I
You
want to help
uncovered
the
it.
world,
You
right?
uncovered it.
It's this part down here. And I love that, right? I love those happy mistakes. I love embracing fear. Like a lot of times I'm afraid of doing something new, as we all are, right? Because it's something new.
Yeah,
And I mean, I've spoken to, I have friends who are billionaires, and they even themselves, when they're about to take on a big thing or do a big NGO or whatever they're doing, it's fear at first, it's
yeah.
just, but the
Everybody wants
excitement
safety.
of doing it. Yeah,
But the
exactly. Yeah.
part the thing is like, things that are innovative are usually not that safe,
Yeah.
right? And the things that are on the bleeding edge of creativity will put you into a place where you're kinda dipping your toe in the deep end and you don't wanna
Yeah.
drown, and you could get scared, and it's this kinda safety thing that, human beings have always wanted to stay in the tribe,
Yeah.
right? Because if you go on the outer edge, and then the wolf's at the door. You get
Right.
kicked out of the tribe for doing something different, and then the wolf and the saber tooth are on you.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
you'd rather not have that happen. And so the problem is like the wolf saber tooth kind of concept can happen without it really being a wolf, right? But you feel just as unsafe as if the wolf was at the
So
door.
true. It's so true. It's so true. Many years ago, and I wrote about this a bit in my book. We went homeless, right? And so we lost everything. We lost our home, we lost our cars, we lost everything. It was like that big recession, 2008. So we
Mhm,
lost a lot of things. And had I would never have chosen that, and I would have been terrified of that because it was
mhm.
uncomfortable and it was a really scary thing to do. It was also the best thing that ever happened to us. Like we really learned a lot about ourselves. We learned about ingenuity. I started my businesses. Like everything started happening at that time because of that scarcity, right? Because of not having. And so sometimes you just have to go ahead and jump. You just have to go ahead and jump.
Sometimes you have
And
to live
yeah,
through that moment, like, and
yeah,
then
you
people
really
like
do.
the crucible moments that happen in your life, and, I'm a Buddhist, but we tend to believe that there are things there in our lives that are kinda set paths, and you're gonna go through it, and you have to
Mhm.
kinda go through it, and the avoidance of it is not gonna work because you have to actually go through it,
Right.
and
We
so
we try though. We try to avoid. We
try
try.
to avoid it, but there's certain things that's like that's on your path.
Yeah.
You do have to get through it. And it's like it's not over just because you hit the storm. Right. I don't know if I want a captain of a boat that's never had bad waters to go through.
Right.
Because like how the heck is he gonna handle it? So he might like, well, I would love to just have nothing but calm seas, but how do I really want a guy that doesn't know how to navigate anything
That's
but calm
right.
seas?
That's
Probably
right.
not.
Right. Right. And the thing, using the boat analogy, it's also the little things that actually make the big impact, right? Because a boat, yes, I mean, it could be, steered here and there, but it needs a rudder, right? And the rudder is smaller than the boat. And that small rudder is what makes you turn left, right, forward, whatever. And it's like, just start making the small decisions, just do the little things. But the point is, though, is to make a decision. Don't be
Mhm.
somebody who is indecisive
And
because then
non-decisive.
right, then you have an empty canvas in front of you and you're not even making a decision to put that brush down even a little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So yeah,
fear.
just go
But
for it.
there's that fear, like, when you could become a writer, it's like, well, I can't I be Hemingway? Well, of
Yeah,
course,
right.
you're not gonna be Hemingway. You were
Right.
never gonna be Hemingway. So
Right.
the idea that and this is where the clone kind of behavior, everybody just wants to take what was, the algorithm's doing
Mhm.
and then do the next cat video. Well, there's a lot of cat videos. We all
Right.
using the same song, and we're actually
Right.
encouraged to use the same songs on our posts now. So
Right.
they'll encourage you to use a song that's already been used. It's
Oh,
like,
that's so good.
why would you do that? To me,
Right.
as like an artist, is like I don't want to put a post with somebody else's song. I will use my own.
Yes.
But
I
then
love
people are
that.
like, well, why would you do that? Well, because it's my own song.
Wow, that's
It,
really good though. You're bringing up a really good point. Like I didn't even see that until just now. Like the programming of being all the same. Oh, that's good. Right? Because when you think about it, like it's like think about even okay, so we're not going to talk politics, but think about this last election, right? Like you're talking about that, and that's just making me think like, oh my gosh, that is so true. The programming to actually be like everyone else, to be like every thought process has to be the same or just spoken the same or
mm, yeah,
program the same. And this is
it's
where I
antithetical
feel
to the word.
yeah. Yeah, it is. And this is where our creativity gets stifled, depression comes in, anxiety comes up because you are constantly, to your point, like the cat video with the same song, everybody thinks that's what they need to do. And nobody's tapping in anymore. Like nobody's stopping to tap in. What is it that I should be doing?
Yeah.
What's my piece?
Well,
You
the thing
know?
is, I look at people, you think about it, like your secret sauce is you.
Yes, it is.
Like I tell as record producers that really know when they get somebody who's a brand new artist, the brand new artist might try to say, well, look, I can sound like, Taylor Swift. I could sound like Beyonce. I could sound like this. And the question is like a really good producer will say, let me see what you sound like. Let me
Right, right,
hear
right.
hear the song that you're scared to show anybody. That's not trying to clone Taylor. It's not trying to clone somebody else. It's
Mm-hmm.
you. And
Mm-hmm.
but my job is to make you sound like the best version of yourself. Use the best mics, best techniques to maybe rephrase your chords, but it's still your chords. It's your
Right.
idea.
Right.
Is that because I think is your idea is going to be uniquely yours, and that's your secret. That's the
Yep.
thing that will get out there because did people want to hear Dylan because Dylan was heard before? No. Did people want to hear Hendrix because he was heard before? Or Jim Morrison? The greats were unique,
Mhm.
right? They were really unique, right?
Right.
And they
Right.
and there were their parallels with it, but they really don't sound like that many other people.
Right.
And so
Right.
and then they tell you, oh, we just industry is always telling you they got to clone the same thing, but that's not what used to happen.
I
And
know.
if you ever want to go forward, it's not what's going to keep on going and happen in the future. You have to have things that are different
Right.
in order to
You
really drive innovation.
But, also to your point is having that experienced person next to you to help you too. Right?
Oh
Because what
yeah,
you're saying is so true. If that artist thinks that they can just go on to like TikTok, let's say, and do a replica of a Beyonce or whatever, I mean, you're always going to be known as the replica of
yeah, yeah. Like
Beyonce
the
and not
monkeys versus
you.
the Beatles. They know
Right.
everybody knows they're
Right.
like a copy of the Fab Four, but they're
Right.
not the Fab Four.
Right.
If you want to be
Right.
that, then you could be that, but or you could be the
Right.
Fab Four.
Right, exactly. But they because they decided they were going to be the Fab Four. They decided they were going to just come out and be them, and that could be you for whatever it is you're trying to create. And to your point, like you need that good producer, that good person that already knows, has experience, has been there, done that, can maybe help you hone in your genius. As opposed to you trying to navigate this by yourself and then thinking that being a copycat is the way to go. It's just not.
Yeah,
Period.
I mean, that's like, even if, everything. I'm in software design. People want to clone software, do the same thing. Like you got something that does a word processing program. Maybe there's 3 companies that do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how many ways can you do that?
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a good one.
So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm going to do another version of Word. Like, oh, really? Like, is
Right.
that really going to hit? Probably not.
It
Um,
probably won't. Right.
like if you come up with a different way of using AI
Right.
within the context of writing, that's a product. So
Right.
it's like coming up with a different angle on a service or something that somebody's going to need. And so he's
Right.
trying to figure out like entrepreneurship is like figuring out, do I have a service? Do I have a product? Do I have a widget that can get a following? They can get somebody
Yeah.
to be a repeat buyer, right? They
Right.
can get somebody to stay in my brand and want and like my brand. It's like, why would they like it? Why
Right.
would they want
Right.
to use it?
So good.
You know,
So good.
so when you're working with people who want to, get into a mindset of an entrepreneur, what are the first things like you look for or you recommend to people to kind of focus on?
Yeah, I try to tell people to focus on what they're serving in the world as opposed to their hourly wage, right? So there's a few ways I approach this. A lot of the people that come to me are already thinking about leaving their corporate life or transitioning from that corporate life into entrepreneurship. So they either want to leave it all together or they want to just stay in it but also have this thing on the side. So they come both ways. But here's the thing. For me, we have all been programmed and built to be employees, right? We're
Mhm.
being built to do these things as employees. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to think outside of that. And this is the shocking thing that happens to a lot of people is that they leave their job that I'm going to go start a business. And then they realize, uh-oh, wait a minute. I need so many other things. I need systems. I need marketing. I need funnel building. I need lead generation. I need all this other stuff. And they don't realize that at first. So it's a little bit of a shocker to the system. But one thing I will say to people is if you want something, try to create a service that you can sell for that something as opposed to an hourly wage. Example, I want a car. I want a new car. It's 60,000, whatever. Okay. I then put on my thinking hat and go, what can I sell in my genius, my wisdom? What can I sell that will give me the 60,000 that I need to purchase my car? As opposed to, let me go and get this job for $25 an hour. If I work for 3 years, I can finally get the 60,000 that I need for my car.
Mhm.
Right. So try to think service wise or how I can serve to gain the income, as opposed to how can I work hourly to gain the income. And I think that that starts to shift your mind a little bit on how you can start to become an entrepreneur as opposed to a wantrepreneur.
Hmm.
Right. So, because all of us want to have the freedom of working for ourselves, me included. Right. But then there's always that element that you have to realize that you are now running the show and having to build the systems, as opposed to when you worked with someone, the systems were built. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, it's a different world,
it's
and
a
people
different
don't realize
mindset.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually in software consulting, and so I kind of work from project to project,
Mhm. Mhm.
working as a consultant that has the expertise in like software design. So
Right.
I'll work like a project 6 months, 3 months, 2 years, 3 years.
Right.
But then I don't have to worry about trying to be within that structure, try
Right.
of the corporate. I can kind of bounce around and go into different areas. And
Right.
what I chose to do is I have a pretty good day job, hit six figures, allows me to do my creative work
Right. Right.
and do my music in my studio here. I can write music. I can buy synthesizers. I can do the things I want and not be a
Right.
starving artist.
Exactly, and that's
So I can
smart.
control. So
Yeah,
the way to kind of control it, so you don't have to be a starving artist. You can find a way to do work, like work for hire. My daughter's a graphic artist. She does work for hire. She does logos. She does art direction, and works with a bunch of artists, does virtual art galleries, and puts the
that's
things
awesome.
together. And so there's kind of an entrepreneurial spirit in our Gittins Jones home that we all, my wife's a playwright. She writes plays and she
That's so
does
good.
presentations. So
Everybody's very creative, all
we're all artists,
creative.
but we all kind of
Yeah,
want to be able to do the things we want on our own
yeah,
terms. We have our own vision,
yeah,
and we didn't feel like, well, we can't do it. We
right.
find a way to do it.
Right. And a job is so cool to have too. If you're somebody who's trying to do this passion on the side, it's great because I call it a loan you don't have to pay back. It's an
Mhm.
interest-free loan. You of course you're trading your time for money, right? But if you're going to take that money to then reinvest it in things that you love and want to do, and you like to do both, go for it. Go for it and do it, because you don't have to just drop everything to go do this thing,
Yeah,
and I
and that's
actually,
the
that's
extreme.
my thing too. I love doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, some people think you have to kind of like all or nothing, and I've always find
Right.
these little shades of gray.
Yeah.
Like to
Same.
be consistent, like I got to pay the mortgage, I got to pay for the car, got to
Yes.
pay for the food, but I
Yes.
also want to be a creative.
Right.
Doesn't mean
Right.
I got to go to New York and be hanging out in Tin Pan Alley
Right.
being a
Right.
starving
Right. Right.
artist. You can do it another way. And
Right.
so it's like there's different degrees of what you're willing to do. And so I think you just put yourself in the mindset. But like in terms of like you have a 3-step process for like involving like trying to get to where you need to be. And
Hmm.
sometimes that involves like as an artist, like everything I do is very cathartic. So my
Hmm.
art is a cathartic behavior to kind of heal myself in by creating art. But
Right.
like if you have other things you want to do, I've heard you like you have a 3-step process like inner healing, transcending
Hmm.
unwanted behavior, and co-creation.
Right.
Um, so maybe you want to talk about like, well, how do you apply those 3 steps for people's lives to kind of get them on the right path?
Yeah. So the first thing we do is we talk about their foundations, meaning we talk about, in the chef world, we call it mise en place, which is getting everything in its place, right? So that's just a fancy word for getting everything in its place. And when we're doing their mise en place or their inner healing work, the foundations is the most important. Why do you want to do this? What are you showing up for? Who's the person that you're seeing in your eyes when you say you want to start this business? Why is this business important? And we also get into like, what are your God-given gifts? What is it that you're seeing here? Like that kind of stuff too. So that's more of the inner healing, where we're really connecting your belief systems and like really breaking down your foundations. What exactly is in you? Because one of the biggest mistakes we make is not look at everything we come to the world with. We have a lot. We have a lot
Mhm.
of beautiful things that are inside of us that we can monetize, but we don't always see it, right? Maybe we're a great prolific writer, but we just don't feel like writing. But maybe you could do some copywriting. Maybe you're really good at, creating lyrics, but you're not you don't want to be an artist or a music producer. Okay, but are there things in you that you're not seeing? So I break that down. It's a huge process. It takes about a week or so. We break it all down. Okay. Then we start talking about what are some of the things that are coming up emotion wise when I tell you to go ahead and do this thing, whether it's a campaign, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, resistance. Okay, what is that? Talk to me about that. Where's that coming from? What is that? So then we start to talk about really transcending all of these unwanted behaviors. This is where my neuro linguistic programming master certification comes in, right? So we start to talk about reconnecting and what does that look like? What are your core values? What is it that you're really showing up for? Because at the end of the day, if you don't know why you are doing this, you are going to quit. Okay.
Mhm.
Because it is going to get hard and you're going to be mad and things don't come as fast as you want. Right. So we have to get through that. And then I
Yeah,
have yeah. Then it's co-creation, which is your third step. And this is actually where we start to build out your business. So what does this look like for you? What is the framework? What's the curriculum that we're building? And when I say co-creation, I'm talking about me, them, and God. All of us are doing it through prayer and creation and like your desires in your heart and why are they there and all that kind of stuff. So that's really how it all runs, but it all runs simultaneously. Like we could do all the co-creation while we're doing inner healing work and so on and so forth. But that's really what it is.
it was very holistic. A lot of
Yeah.
times there's a lot of pillars to life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people like may focus like, oh, on the physical, like I'll get myself in my physical body in good shape. But
Yeah.
then they don't deal with their spiritual shape, or they don't deal with
Right.
the mental shape, or they don't deal
Exactly.
with the nutrition side of it. So
Mm-hmm,
then
mm-hmm.
it's like anytime I found is like if you're out of balance, then things tend to not work. But you might not know how you're out of balance,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
that's where the kind of inner work has to happen to figure out like, do you have problems like with your inner child, with your kind of spirituality,
Right.
with
Right.
your soul in your heart, not
Right.
just your mind, right? Because the mind is a whole nother thing. So
Right.
if any of those things kind of get out of balance or out of sync or not in tune or not in the right
Mm-hmm.
kind of key from a kind of musical perspective, then you get dissonance, you get
Right.
noise, get discordance, and then you don't know where you should be because your vision gets blurry because you're getting bad inputs, you're getting bad,
Right.
information because you're not like in the right place to hear it, see it, or feel it.
Right. And you got to show up for you, right? Like you really have to do the work. You'll know most of the time when you are off. Like you'll know if you're teaching something you don't know about and you don't have the skill set for it. You'll feel it, you'll know it. It's in your bones, you just know. Right? It's like trying to sing a song out of tune. You
Yeah,
know you're off tune. You
you
know
out of
you're
key.
you you know.
Yeah, off
Yeah,
the
exactly.
key.
You're out of key. You know you're tone deaf. Like this ain't working, right? But you're still trying to plow through it. And the truth of the matter is that if you had somebody helping you or wisdom or somebody who can guide you through that, then maybe you can get right back on the note and really finish this out right. But a lot of times, and this happens, I don't know, I'm sure because you're on the online space a lot, you see it. There's just so many people giving you so much bad information.
A lot of
And
noise.
then, yeah, a lot of noise and a lot of bad, bad, bad information. And so you're sitting there struggling because you're not, like you said, right? There's some dissonance happening. There's something happening that you're not aligned. Your voice says, I'm good, but your body's like, I'm good. So they know like that's not matching here, guys. That's not
Mhm.
matching.
Yeah,
So
out of
yeah, you got
alignment.
to show up. You got to show up for you. You're right. You have to be in alignment. Absolutely.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, I like why I like to do, like I said, is like it's very cathartic to kind of work through the vulnerable, hard things. And I've talked
Yes.
to a lot of writers and a lot of painters, a lot of musicians, a lot of, anybody in the arts, and they'll say it's like a lot of my inspiration for my work comes from something that was pretty hard or something
Mhm.
that was
Mhm.
really dramatic or
Yeah.
traumatic.
Yeah.
Right? It tends to drive the work. But some people don't know how to process those things.
Yeah.
They don't know how to actually take something and turn it into some positive energy they
Mhm,
actually
mhm.
let the negative piece of it kind of fester
Yeah,
and then not be able to get out of the loop. So you get in what we call
so
like a
true.
bad feedback loop
Mhm,
instead of
mhm.
a loop that actually allowed you to create a really piece of good of work. You just keep on getting in this like resentment loop. You
Yeah,
know, this
yeah.
re-traumatize myself loop and just keep on getting in, not finding a way out of it.
Well, your brain is only going to do what you've taught it to do, right? So your brain is there to protect you. And so if being afraid has been something that's protected you, right? Maybe not in the most positive way, but maybe it's protected you from getting hurt or from trying something new. And if your brain understands that that's what's helped you, that's what your brain is going to continue to do. You have to reprogram yourself. It's almost like a computer, right? It's a
Yeah,
blank, computer gets all of this program. I mean, I bought a used computer once, and no matter how many times I tried to clear that darn motherboard, it was
it was
still
still there.
had some stuff on it.
It's
Right. It
always
still
in
had
there.
some stuff.
It's hard to get
Exactly.
rid of
So it's hard to
it.
get rid of it. I was so annoyed. But at one point I just said, you know what, forget it. I mean, their old pictures are in there. I'm just gonna live with this foreign family's pictures they have in
Information is in there.
there.
Yeah, you got the
Yeah.
legacy
Yeah.
data. Yeah, like,
Exactly.
how do you get rid of your
Yeah.
legacy data?
It's-
Yeah, it's just hard because, it's hard for people to break out of these cycles, and
yeah.
then once you start to figure out that, it's kinda like with, like, practice, and I think athletes and musicians, we do have something in common, like our 10,000 hours of practice.
Right.
You think
Right.
about the guy gets a three-point shot. He's been hitting that shot
Yep.
in practice over, and it's muscle memory. The same thing on my bass guitar. It's like I hit those notes, I don't even have to look at the bass because
Right.
it's muscle memory. Because I've probably done like 10,000 hours of playing the bass, so I know
Right.
where everything is,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
I can hear it, and I would just hit it. Like I can
Right.
just go right to it. I don't have to look at it. So one, but if you got to understand it, your mind can be trained on things like that for anything.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't get that. There's they can get it from an actor or from a musician or an athlete, but they don't realize that you can retrain yourself just with the same kind of rigor.
Mhm.
You could get yourself to learn how to deal with your triggers. You could get
Yeah.
yourself to figure out how, like, here's a different pathway to go, right? But you got to practice. You've got
Yeah.
to practice like mindfulness or practice like a new mindset. And
Yeah.
you can't just
Yeah.
think about it one time. You got to get into it and get into the retraining, the reframing.
It's funny how we forget those things though, right? Because there's nothing in life that we've done that we didn't have to be taught or trained. Everything has been taught or trained in some level, right? And so like if those who are listening like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do it." Well, when you first started your first job, you couldn't do that either.
Yeah,
Somebody had to train you. And then you went every day to get to know it, and now you probably could do it with your eyes closed. So it's the same thing. The first time you try to meditate, it's going to be so hard. Like it's still hard for me. The first time you try to, look at your job at a different angle or start a new program or, learn a new beat or whatever you're doing, you are not going to get, I'm sorry, but you're just not going to get it right the first time. You're
yeah,
just
yeah.
not, and you got to be okay with that because you're not going to get anything in life the first time completely right. You're going to evolve and become even better as you go. Like when I look at my first videos, I'm like, oh God,
Yeah, that's how I am.
I leave them
Episode
there.
1
So
versus
yeah,
episode 1,000.
exactly. Right.
Yeah,
The
it's a
same.
process, but I think
Yeah.
sometimes employers seem to have forgotten this because I noticed today, like on the LinkedIns and the Indeeds, they're looking for people that already have the acronyms, already
Yeah.
have like the thing is like that's really interesting to me is AI technology typically is only in the last 3 years that people could really have certifications.
Yeah.
And then I see people with jobs saying they want somebody with a 5 years worth of AI.
Yeah.
I'm like, unless they worked for OpenAI, where would they get that from? Like,
Right.
don't you think it would be better to take an actuary and then teach them AI or take a
I
business
would.
analyst or
Yeah.
that knows the business, right? And then learns how to do the AI prompting,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But the
I don't
part
know.
where
I don't know what happened.
people are so into wanting people who are already trained with
Yeah.
no training.
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake on
Huge.
in the corporate America side. They're making a lot of mistakes in terms of
Yeah.
you do need to invest in people and teach the blockchain, teach the AI to people who could be taught.
Yep.
And guess what? When they check it, 90% of people could be taught these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the idea that
It's
you have
such a
to
good
just take
point.
the ready-made pull and pull them from here and then pull them from there,
Yeah.
how are you ever going to generate new talent if you just keep on pulling talent that already exists?
That's such a good point, right? Because getting now into like leadership and like work and all of that kind of stuff. I've noticed that too. And it's actually frustrating to be honest. Like you'll go and you'll open up some of these job postings. I always like to look at what's out there in the world. And it's like literally almost like 3 pages long of qualifications that they need from a person. And I'm just like,
Nobody
this is
really
like
has it, and
right.
if you
Nobody
have it,
has it.
you're pulling
Exactly.
from somewhere else,
Right.
right?
Right.
Instead of taking somebody that like, this somebody could have 55% of it, but they showed a lot of capability. Like,
Right. Right.
what if
Right.
they showed that they worked in banking, and they worked in healthcare, and they
Right.
worked in sales?
Right.
Then that shows that they can do different lines of business,
Right.
or they
That's a
can
smart
learn.
way to look at it. Right.
Instead of
That
saying, "Well, they're not in the same one."
right.
Like, was that a problem, or is that a
Well,
benefit?
I mean, this is I think where depending too much on AI has become a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because, if the person has all of these skills, like to your point, right? Healthcare, and then they did this and then they did that, and that's all on their resume. They now feed this through an AI program who says, nope, 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 nope,
No,
nope.
no,
And
because they're looking for X, 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 and it didn't
exactly.
hit it
Yeah.
99%,
Right.
where
Right.
what the human recruiter will do this. I'm gonna take my gut and figure this guy probably can learn.
Yeah.
So maybe if I talk to him, when I have that human conversation, I said, "Yeah, this guy could be really good."
Yeah.
If you
Exactly.
weed those conversations from even happening, I think you're using the AI to your detriment.
Yeah.
And I've gone to the leadership people all over the place telling them, like, "You're not using it right. You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
it right."
Yeah, but that's happening with a lot of things too, right? I'm in the coaching world, I'm in the coaching business. And so I speak to a lot of people, oh, just use AI to do your next program. But that's not, no, no. I mean, it's great to ask it questions and maybe get like a bounce of ideas or some outline or something. But if I'm going to have it create my entire program, what am I needed for?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's like
That's kind of like
ridiculous,
me making it write my song. Like, I
Right.
might take
People do it. Yep.
have it do some recording engineering, which means it's
Yeah.
gonna give me different mixes. Is it make it sound like Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. Make it sound like way, the mix that Quincy Jones used on Thriller, right? So I could al that's not writing the song, it's changing the way the sound what the
Mm,
sound processing is. So for
yeah.
something like that, yeah, I can go and have it give me examples of different sound processing that I can apply to my vocal that I already did, or
Right.
a bass line that I already wrote, but I'm not gonna have it write my bass line or write my melody. I'm a human being, I wrote those.
Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
gonna use it as a tool to treat and engineer and process and produce. But I
Mm-hmm.
think when you overuse it, it's a typical computer concept, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's true, and I wish that, people would understand that, like, I think they're just heavily reliant on AI now because it's fun, right? You go on there and it just, like, can break down a book for you and give you all the main tips in, like, 2 seconds, which is awesome. And but when you start to rely on it to the point where now you're not thinking or you're not being creative, this is a problem. And this is happening a lot. Like, sometimes I'll speak to people and it's like, "Oh, like, the answers to this, but you're so into AI now that you're literally not learning how to respond
Yeah, your
without an
critical thinking.
AI." Right,
Yeah,
your critical thinking is
you're not
going
learning
away.
you're not learning to do the thinking on your feet.
Yeah.
And this is kinda like the way I love about jazz is, like, if I'm playing with a jazz group, somebody could change the chord, and then I'll just figure out what goes with it because of my experience. I don't
Right,
have
right,
to
right,
stop the song. The song will
right,
continue, and I'll just make an adjustment. But if you're in a world where you're always looking for the so-called right answer,
right,
then you get lost and you get stuck, and then if things feel disjointed or they feel fake. My daughter's a graphic artist, and she rails against AI imaging systems because she is a hand, painter,
right.
line artist, can do graphite pencil, can do pastels. And there's something about a real artist who gets in,
Oh, 100%.
like a work request
Mhm.
to do a book cover versus an AI prompt doing a book
Yep.
cover, and these people
Yep.
thinking that the AI prompt is equal to a real artist haven't really looked at real art.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's even in my world too, right? In the coaching world, the same thing. Like you can go ahead and have an AI, create a chat GPT and make it your coach. It will never be a good coach. Like it'll only give you what you're spitting at it. It only can regurgitate what it's gotten online. It will not be able to see the nuances. Well, what happened here and why did this happen? And what's your thought process? How is your emotion on this right now? Have you thought of re-angling this? We gotta bring the human element
Yeah, but
back,
human
you
beings
know?
have a
Yeah.
thing called empathy, and then you have that
Yep.
mindset and your own experience, right? The
Right.
computer's experience is limited to that machine learning library
That's right.
and limited by the biases of the people who put the things in the library.
Right. Right.
There's things called hallucinations where it can actually answer things that it really doesn't know and give
Right.
you really bad data,
Right.
right? Like tell you
That's
to eat
right.
rocks
Right.
because somebody trained it that you could eat a rock.
Right.
You can put bad data in, garbage in, garbage out. So it's
That's
so
absolutely
the
true.
idea that like, and no one's ever gonna be T.S. Eliot in an AI chat.
Right.
You
Right.
know, they're never gonna be at the level of Moby Dick or Pride
Right.
and Prejudice or
Right.
Shakespeare or Keats or Yeats or anybody. Because you know what's missing? The human spirit,
Yeah.
soul factor.
Yeah.
Going back to
Yeah.
Plato and all the stuff you've ever gotten into. Like, there's something about the human being that cannot be replaced by the machine.
That's right.
Though
That's right.
the tech bros will try to tell you that it can because it's in their interest because they make a lot of money.
Of course. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that just because they make money doesn't mean they're right.
Exactly. Well, the thing is that they make money because we live in a microwave world. And that's one of the issues, right? Is that everybody wants a microwave answer in a microwave world. They don't want to go into the slow cooker and actually do the work and,
Yeah,
actually get the flavors to meld together and to become something
a home cooked
amazing at
meal
the end, right? Like
versus my,
amazing at the
DoorDash
end.
meal. Yeah, and, like, there's
Exactly.
something about me sitting there and making my own natural turkey dinner
Right.
with oyster stuffing and doing the cranberry sauce from scratch versus me getting the cranberry sauce in the can
Right.
and
Big
ordering some,
difference.
you know, Popeyes to give me the turkey.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
like
at my restaurant, I used to, the chefs used to be like, "Hey chef, what are we doing?" I said, we made everything from scratch. I mean, everything from scratch. And like our ketchups,
oh, everything, yeah,
aiolis,
that's what you
everything, like
want. That's what
everything
you
from
want.
scratch. And so, but we have a lot of like amazing awards and stuff like that because of that, right? Because we made it that way. And and they used to always say, "But chef, this ketchup is really good." I don't care. It's not
It's not
fresh. It's
yours,
like
it's not yours.
it has to be now. It has to be this, it has to be
Yeah,
fresh,
you want that
now.
moment,
Right.
like, in the
Exactly.
moment. Yeah, it's
Right.
like when
Right.
I lived in Japan and had the real sushi
Oh,
because I lived in Tokyo.
yes. Oh, I'm
And
so
there's something
jealous.
about a real sushi chef in front of
Yes.
you actually taking a salmon or taking a tuna and actually taking it from the big fish market in Japan and cutting it right in front of you and doing it,
Yes. Oh,
right? And doing the soup right in front of you, doing everything in front of you. And
it's
it's like,
art. It's
it's art.
art.
I mean, there was art
Yes.
to it. There was like
Yes.
a play. It was like a play.
Mhm.
And then it's the skill of the chef. And you could go to different sushi restaurants and the chefs all had different ways of cutting it and the
Yeah.
way they cut it and the different seasonings and the different things they use, it would all taste different. I mean, all over Tokyo, every place was different.
That must have been
Every
amazing.
type of restaurant was so different. I'm like, that was the whole reason. You tell
Right.
me some robot's gonna do it and it's gonna be like that? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah, but you know what? You're just proving a point too, because listen to your tone and your excitement when it came to doing that, as opposed to going to your local supermarket and grabbing it off the shelf.
Yeah, it's not the
Right?
same.
I didn't hear you exactly. I didn't hear you brag about how the good sushi on the in the deli counter was amazing,
Yeah, my
right? You were
supermarket sushi is like,
right.
I don't even know if I can eat it anymore because I kind of
Right,
super
because
spoiled. Uh,
exactly the point, exactly
yeah,
my point. Like it's really difficult for me to like go out and buy like all of these things when I know that I'm a damn good chef. So I'm going to make it at home first,
yeah, I like to cook
It's
myself.
like
It's like
yeah,
art for me. It's like
exactly.
I just like to bake.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
I'll make my
good.
own cookies, like
Right.
buckwheat chocolate chip
Right.
cookies. I make them from scratch, and,
Right.
you
And
know,
cookies were a mistake. Cookies were a mistake from a baker many years ago who was making a cake. They
and
didn't
it
have
messed
any
up.
leavener. Right. They didn't have any leavener. And so it became flat like a cookie.
Say,
And
"What's
before you
this?"
know it, yeah,
It's a happy
exactly.
accident. Yeah,
And it
well,
was
that's how, like, you
an
get these
amazing
french
happy
fries, I don't know
accident.
if french fries were, like, the same kind of thing. The guy was playing with the fries, and it's like, "Oh," then the people are like, "Oh, I like this idea of having a
Right.
french fry." But,
Right.
like, experimentation is like human beings, like, that's how we progress. It's like, you
Yeah.
wanna find that new restaurant with that new
Right.
recipe. You
Right.
just don't want it's
Right.
like, do you really wanna just keep on having the same burger and fries?
Right.
You get
Right.
that because it's comfort. You get that
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah. Exactly.
with certain things
Habit.
are comfortable,
Habit.
you go get that
Right.
donut and the coffee or whatever. Because but then when you really want to try something, you'll go like, "Let's try that Nigerian restaurant, or we'll try this
Yes.
this new taco in
Right.
LA from a taco truck I never been to." Then
Right.
I'm like, "Yeah, because that thing's, like, unbelievable." It's like, "Oh, I
Right.
can't even find it again."
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
That's what you're looking for. It's like,
Exactly.
"Hey, I gotta try to find that truck."
And that's because there's an artist on that truck doing something you've never had before or that good before. And it's because somebody really loves what they're doing. They're taking their time with that
Yeah,
barbacoa
there's
or
passion.
whatever.
Yeah,
And
there's a
yeah,
passion. There's
there's
a passion.
passion, there's love and passion and humanity to it. Right. So it's
Yeah,
such a big
that's
difference.
when
Yeah.
they get the tech bros telling you that everything's gonna be robots and AI, I said, "Well, maybe for your bottom line, but not for mine."
And the truth is that their bottom line bottoms out because at the end of the day, we still are going to need that human connection, right? So I really have a pet peeve with these done for you services that do everything and you don't even have to show up but turn on a button and it goes on for you.
Yeah.
I have such an annoyance with this stuff because I feel like you're doing your people a disservice when you do something like that. Like if I were to go up to somebody and say, "Hey, Joe Schmo, hey, listen, this is the coaching business I want. Can you just go ahead and build it for me through AI?" I do the people that are going to purchase that a disservice. There's nothing there that has my wisdom, my talents, my know-how, my grit, none of that. Right.
Mhm.
My
It's a
empathy.
package. It's a
Yeah,
kind of fast
it's
food.
just a
It's like
package. And I'm
this
like, I
getting
don't
that
agree. I don't
well, you're
agree.
getting that,
You
that
know?
styrofoam box
Yeah.
with the widget. It's like
Right.
that's when people started to, you see it even in, the automobile industry, like, car
Yeah.
companies make their cars very specialized in terms of ordering things where you can option things so differently,
Mhm. Mhm.
it becomes unique, where it used to be like, "Well, we gotta to streamline this, so it's only a couple ways you can have it."
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah.
now people want to take a car, and they'll even go and option it after the fact and add all this aftermarket stuff
Right.
because they're looking to be individuals.
Right.
They're looking to
Right.
find a way to distinguish themselves. Even I'm a biker, and like, when I build a mountain bike, there's so many components on my frame. I can just nothing's ever the same. I don't
Right.
ever get it from the bike shop pre-built. I
But
build the bike like very customized for what I want to do with it, and I
right,
think
and to
that's
your
the kind
point
of future.
though, but to your point, this is where you can now charge high ticket prices
Yeah,
because you're unique, because
yeah.
you are different, because you're giving people different skills, different angles, different aspects. So I mean, your mountain bike, I can go buy one at Walmart, or I can go ahead and have somebody make it uniquely done. It's going to cost me a lot more money, but it will also be worth the money.
Oh, it's like
And that's the
yours.
thing.
Like you
Yeah,
it's like, why does somebody customize the Harley the way they do?
right.
Because they
Exactly.
wanna have a ride that fits their individuality,
Exactly. Exactly.
and that's where the key to the future is. There's a lot of room for entrepreneurs that allow people to have customized products or
Yeah.
customized services that really speak to them. They speak
Right.
to this isn't cookie cutter. This isn't just a clone of something that's out of the machine learning library. This
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
somebody listening to you
Mhm.
and actually customizing what the responses are based on who you are.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think that we start to, and this is you probably align with this. You also need to spend some more time with just you, because when you are like too much on, YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or AI or whatever it is, you don't hear your voice anymore, and so you start to really not know who you are, what you're bringing to the table, what you can bring, what your uniqueness is. And so spend some time with you guys, like whoever's listening, just spend some time with you. Like honestly, go for a nice walk. Put on maybe some meditation music in your ear if you need to, and just be. And you'll be surprised how much creativity comes from within you,
Yeah,
right?
get rid of the noise and you
Yeah.
start to listen to yourself
Yeah.
and then the ideas, and then you give yourself the permission structure
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people who don't give themselves permission to dream,
Yeah.
to focus on themselves because people say,
Right.
"Well, it's shameful to focus on myself. I'm being an egomaniac."
Right. Right.
Well, like
Somebody told you that. I don't know who told you that. Somebody told you that.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you got to focus. Like if you don't focus on yourself, you can't find
Exactly.
out what is actually going on.
That's
Like the
right.
whole idea of the looking glass self the Victorians talked about
Mhm.
is like you look in that mirror, you look deep into yourself, you start to ask yourself the questions that are hard
Right.
questions like, why do I get triggered by this? Why do I feel angry? Why do I feel sad? Why am I happy?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm. Mhm.
try to uncover like what makes you happy, what
Right.
makes you sad, and
Right.
then try to understand, well, can I actually be in a place where I'm more happy than sad? Could I be
Yeah.
in a place where I can actually hit the things I want to do that I can actually fulfill my promises to myself? Can I start to do those things?
Right.
That takes some introspection, takes some work.
And you have to do it afraid. You have to be able to face fear because you're going to have to do it afraid. Like I have an acronym for fear is face and eliminate all restrictions. So when you want to do something and there's restriction, face and eliminate all restrictions. And
Mhm.
so, that's how I look at it. So when I'm afraid of something, I literally look at it that way. Okay, let's face it. Let's eliminate it. Let's make sure we got everything out the way. And these are restrictions that need to go. That's how I look at fear because I live my life a lot with fear. Anybody who's read my book, know I've been abused since I was a child. So there was a lot of fear in my life and I was almost murdered. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
there was a lot of fears in my life. And so I had to one day say, I don't want to be afraid anymore. I'm done. Like I got angry. I'm like, I'm really done with this fear stuff. I'm done with it. And so I just started to go for what I wanted to go for. And I still continue to do that. And every day when I wake up with that little bit of fear, I'm like, oops, sorry. We're gonna be taking care of that because we're not gonna have you restricting my life. No way,
Yeah, we
Jose.
just don't wanna get restricted by those fears
No.
because it's like, life is hard, but you don't wanna make it harder by creating your own
Right.
glass ceiling.
Yeah. And
You
we
gotta
all
bust
we all
through.
have a that moment, right? Where maybe all of us will have that moment when we're laying in our deathbed one day. Don't regret it.
Yeah,
Don't
well, they
regret
say
it.
they didn't try it. They didn't try
Yeah.
to fight
Yeah.
to fight, but, I made a big choice to live in Japan, and a
Yeah.
lot of my family, back when I did it, they were all like, "Oh," they were so scared. They said, "Well, you're gonna get earthquakes, people aren't gonna like you, this and that." It was, like, the best experience I ever had in
I
my life,
bet. I bet.
and I'm
See?
actually, like, really looking to, like, maybe try to do it again
Yeah.
just because I really enjoyed that time when I was there. And it
That's
was
so
just
good.
really and so, like, people have to understand, like, you can export yourself into a world like Japan. Like, you could go, go to Finland, you could go to Greenland, you could go anywhere
Yes.
on the planet.
Yes.
Like, you are not limited by where you are now.
That's
You
right.
could actually put your head space into it and say, I at the time, it's like, I didn't know how to speak Japanese,
Right.
you know, but I was there with my daughter going she went to a Japanese school, and we were there for 2 years. So
That's so
once you
good.
put yourself into a society, it will things will be it will just happen because you
Yeah.
gotta live it. So,
Right.
like, to be
Right.
able to put yourself against the fear of, like, I'm in a totally different culture, it's not the same at all, it's Eastern versus Western. Like,
Right.
you can put yourself in that kinda scenario and you can win. So,
So good. I'm glad you did that. That's awesome. Good for you.
but I wanna, then point out, though, are your URL because we haven't talked about that.
Okay.
So if people go to that page with the opt-in page, what happens if they actually connect on that and, talk and, link to you that way?
Well, if they go there, they're gonna be able to see like a tiny master class where I go through what my process is, my program. So that if they're interested, they can, go ahead and contact me. There's going to be a booking page if they want to contact me and get on a free call with me. I'm not scary,
Cool.
so let's just talk and let's see what it is that is on your mind and heart, and align something. And you can walk away with some ideas and plans. You don't ever have to use me as your coach. I don't need it, but
Mhm.
I'm here
That's pretty
for it.
cool.
I'm here for it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is fully clickable. Like
Yeah.
in
Awesome.
our podcast description on every platform that we're on, that will be fully clickable. You'll be able to go through, so you don't have to remember that. But we were just live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. It will be
So
that
fun.
link will be immediately available as soon as we're off the air on those platforms. By tomorrow, it'll be available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, a bunch of other platforms.
Oh my gosh.
So we will create a landing page that will get to you so you can share with your audience. And we'll put that out on all of our social media platforms with some reels that we do. And I want to thank you again for being on the podcast so people can to go watch it or listen to it again on any platform that they like. And I thank you again for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful. This was a great conversation. It went by fast. So
Yeah,
thank you.
it always goes by quicker than I ever imagined, but that's the way it goes. But thank you again for being on the show
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.